Look, just take a look at the phone in your hand. It's been the same glass slab for nearly a decade, and yet the price just keeps climbing. This is the glitch in the upgrade cycle that, well, nobody actually wants to talk about. I've been analyzing the trajectory of the flagship device, and honestly, it's quite literally a masterclass in psychological anchoring. You see, we're paying more for the sensation of progress, whilst the hardware remains fundamentally stagnant. I'm going to be dissecting why the gadget that once changed the world has become a predictable, overpriced commodity that we're conditioned to buy every 24 months, without question. Think about it. In 2014, the massive breakthrough was a slightly larger screen. In 2017, it was the removal of the home button. Since then, what have you actually gained? A third camera lens? A titanium frame that saves, a few grams of weight? Look, it's a brilliant bit of engineering, don't get me wrong, but it's engineering for the sake of a quarterly earnings report, not for the sake of the user. Silicon Valley has hit a literal thermal ceiling, and yet they're asking for $1,500 for a device that does 90% of the same things your 4-year-old phone did. We've entered a bloody massive era of diminishing returns, where the only thing truly evolving is the marketing budget. It's all designed to make you feel like your current slab is suddenly obsolete. It's a daunting reality for anyone who cares about tech, but once you see the patterns, you realize that the innovation hasn't just slowed down, it has stopped. We're trapped in a cycle of paying a premium for the illusion of the future, whilst holding onto a piece of hardware that reached its peak years ago. This is the glass slab paradox, and it's the reason your next $1,000 purchase might just be the most boring thing you ever buy. For over a decade, we were sold a very specific dream, a computer in your pocket that would democratize creativity and liberate your productivity. We fell for it. Every year we lined up for the incremental update, mesmerized by the promise of foldables that would replace our tablets, batteries that would finally last until morning, and cameras with lenses so massive they were dubbed pro-grade. We told ourselves that $1,200 price tag was an investment in our future. But if you pull back the polished glass, you find a daunting reality. We have hit the Silicon Plateau. To understand why your phone feels stagnant, look, you have to understand the architecture. For decades, Moore's Law was the heartbeat of the industry, a reliable rhythm of doubling transistors and slashing power consumption. But we are reaching the end of the road. We are currently staring down the barrel of the 3-nanometer process, and quite frankly, we are fighting against the laws of physics. At this scale, you see, we are dealing with individual atoms. You quite literally cannot just shrink the components indefinitely without running into quantum tunneling or thermal nightmares that no amount of engineering can fix. The silicon has become a commodity. The performance gains that once felt like a leap are now, barely a nudge. This is why Apple, Google, and Samsung have shifted the conversation. Notice how they stopped talking about wall clock speeds and started talking about neural engines?
There is a reason for that. Your expensive hardware is being demoted. It is no longer the brain of the operation. It is becoming a glorified, very expensive window into a data center located thousands of miles away. The innovation hasn't disappeared. It has just moved to a server-side AI that you will never see. Whilst you are holding a piece of hardware that looks like the future, it is doing less of the thinking locally than ever before. Your phone is becoming a dumb terminal, a luxury display for an intelligence that lives in the cloud. And that is exactly how the giants want it. They have traded your local power for a subscription to their servers. And most of us haven't even noticed the handover. But the shift from local processing to the cloud isn't just a technical change, right? It is a fundamental shift in who actually owns the device in your pocket. Because once the thinking happens elsewhere, the hardware becomes a tether. And that tether is about to get much tighter. Look, I want you to think about the last time you actually felt like you owned your phone. Not just that you paid for it, but that you had total control over it. The truth is, that feeling is a relic of the past. We've entered the era of the rental economy, a rent-seeker's paradise where you are quite literally a permanent tenant in a glass and titanium cage. You see, the tech giants realized that genuine longevity, well, it's the enemy of the quarterly earnings report. To solve this, they've mastered software-defined obsolescence. It's a subtle, invisible decay. Your hardware is no longer governed by physics. It's governed by a line of code that decides when your device is too old to be useful. It's a brilliant, if bloody massive, trap. Take the death of repairability as the primary example. Look, I'm talking about parts pairing. A practice so restrictive it feels like a corporate middle finger to the consumer. If you swap a screen today without the manufacturer's digital blessing, you are lobotomizing your device. A simple piece of glass becomes a kill switch for your biometric security. Disappointed? Face ID or your fingerprint sensor, they simply stop working. Why? Because the software refuses to recognize the new hardware. It's hardware as a service, mate, even if you paid $1,000 for it up front. This is how they ensure your device's lifespan is dictated by their needs, not yours. We're being sold a utility disguised as a luxury. The hardware is engineered to fail precisely when the marketing for the next model starts to peak. It's a calculated, cold-blooded strategy to keep you on the upgrade treadmill, whilst making you feel like it was your choice to move on. But here's the thing. As daunting as the hardware trap is, the physical device is only the manifestation of the cage. Because once they own the hardware and control the repairs, they can start to dictate exactly how you use the intelligence inside it. And that is where the transition from owner to user becomes truly permanent. Look, the smartphone isn't just a gadget anymore. It's become a terminal for your entire life. And that, quite frankly, is precisely where the danger lies. I've spent years tracking these upgrade cycles, right? And I've come to a realization. We have to stop treating these incremental updates like they're revolutionary milestones. They aren't. They're simply routine maintenance.
Whilst the smartphone has died as an object of wonder, it's become an essential utility, as mundane as a kettle or a light bulb. But the tech giants? Well, they need you to keep that old feeling of magic alive, because it keeps you on the treadmill. I've realized that the real future of technology doesn't lie in that slab of glass in your pocket. It lies in reclaiming our digital autonomy before the terminal becomes the jailer. See, if we don't start demanding 7-year support cycles and true right to repair, we are quite literally funding our own digital enclosure. We're moving toward a world where you don't own your devices. You merely subscribe to them until a corporation decides they're obsolete. It's a brilliant bit of business for them, obviously, but it's a daunting reality for us. I want you to think about this the next time a keynote tries to convince you that a slightly faster chip is a life-changing event. It isn't. I mean, the real question isn't whether your next phone will have a better camera or a titanium frame. The real question is, will you actually own that device in 5 years? Or will the software decide that you're finished? I hope this has given you a reason to look at that slab of glass a little differently. Stay curious, stay critical, and don't let the hype cycle blind you to the architecture of the cage. If you enjoyed this deep dive, I'd love to hear your thoughts on ownership in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one.